What's up, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Cervantes Podcast. Joining me today to discuss how to succeed in sports media, being invited to the Super Bowl, and his new podcast aimed to help people in their 20s navigate life is Director of Social at the Game Day, co-host of Caps Off Podcast, creator of Sports Media University, and host of Thrive by 29 podcast, Felipe Fontes. How are you doing today, bro?
I'm doing great, man. That is a long intro, but I appreciate it. I do a lot of things. So the fact that you're able to get that clean one take is impressive.
Thank you. No, yeah, he's the podcast king now, sports media king. We love to see it. And
Yeah.
third time on the podcast, first time as a solo guest.
Thanks so much for having me on. I really enjoyed the other two times. So when you hit me up for this, I'm like, shit, why not? Let me jump on.
So Felipe graduated from Hofstra University with a bachelor's degree in broadcast journalism in 2020. Before joining the Game Day, he had prior production, programming, and digital media experience at NBC Sports, SiriusXM, and CBS Sports. Was it difficult making the jump to the traditional route from undergrad to big company and instead going to a smaller company?
So I would say, like, while I was in college, I had the internship experience at these big companies. And so I knew that pretty well because I was in three different companies. And
Right.
they were different. One, as you mentioned, some digital media, some production and editorial experience. But when I graduated and I got the opportunity with a small company, I really felt the difference. I wouldn't say I was unprepared or that it was hard to adjust because of that. I think that the skills that I had equipped myself with from just experiencing everything and taking action in a bunch of different ways prepared me for the situation that I got in with a small company. I got a lot of valuable experience everywhere. But the biggest thing for me in terms of just acclimating to whatever position you're in and whatever position that I got into when I got into any of these positions is just diving in head first and not being afraid to make mistakes. So I think I really just, acclimated well because I wasn't afraid of that. So I just got my hands dirty and I always just ask, how I can help out the most ways that I can. And the one thing at the small company that is different than a big company is the kind of the how much you're able to do. You're able to like kind of touch so much and you're able to go in so many different directions because they need you to. Whereas a big company, you don't really need to. So yeah.
At the Game Day, you lead a team of 6 social media managers, and you are in charge of both editorial and programming strategy across all of the Game Day social media accounts. If you weren't busy enough, you also co-host Caps Off podcast, which has garnered over 7 million views on YouTube and almost 100,000 followers on TikTok. You and your team have been very successful in what seems like a short period of time, but you have been very candid on your Sports Media University Instagram page, where you speak about how the industry isn't as fun as one would seem. And you said when looking for the perfect job, you should look for a direct hands-on experience, like you said, on task with observable results, with freedom to test your own ideas out, even if it means you make mistakes and opportunities for you to lead projects with clear objectives. Is this the secret to how you have been so successful?
Yeah, that is what you just talked about last. I think that's the ideal opportunity. So then I would say, that's what makes up the ultimate opportunity that's going to allow you to grow. So it's a combination of that ultimate opportunity that consists of those things and also what you do. And so I do think that, you can a strong work ethic, you can find your way and climb your way out of different things. Even if you're in the wrong position, you're going to find the right opportunity or you're going to create the right opportunity as long as you work. So for me, it was a combination of those things. During COVID, I didn't have any options really. That's when I started working at the Game Day. Was 2020. I had graduated in 2020 in like May, and I started working at the Game Day in October. And it was the first opportunity that I really got. I had another one at the same time, so I chose between two, but they came at the same time. So I had to wait till October, and then I started at the Game Day, and I was the 8th employee, and now we're at like 60 something or something like that. But I was very privileged to be able to and lucky to just be able to start somewhere at the beginning and grow with that company. But while I said the opportunity is important, if I wasn't willing to hustle, then I wouldn't have gotten to where I was. I tell people this, and it's kind of hard to believe nowadays because you're like, oh, it's 2023, but at the end of the day, this happens a lot. A lot of small companies are going to work the hell out of their employees. And when I first started, because there was 8 of us, I would start working at 6, 7 sometimes in the morning, and I would work till 11:30, 12 at night, because that's when the games were going to. So I was working a lot, but that allowed me to improve my skills. That allowed me to show them what I was capable of. So when the company actually started getting that funding to grow, I was one of the first people that were really just like skyrocketing up, that company, the company ladder. So a combination of great opportunity and also applying yourself, I would say.
Right, like I would tell people too, like for me, I think I was a little too, if I'm being honest, I was a little too cocky in the beginning. Like when I graduated college, I was like, oh, like what's his name? What's her name? Got a job at this company right out of college. So I'm gonna get that
Right.
too. And I feel like God was kind of like, nah, like you gotta work for it. So there's nothing wrong with, so for me, I wanted to work at a big company because I just felt confident, like, oh, like I can do it. My peers did it, like why can't I do it too? But I think it's also dope too to put your trust in yourself, believe in yourself, and go to a smaller company and fast forward to that leadership position. Because I'm not going to be a producer in 2 years, whereas you
Right.
were able to be a director and lead a whole team in 2 years, year and a half.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. But it's also
Yeah.
coupled with like your work ethic. It's probably a great team of
Yeah.
people that are rooting for each other.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would tell people who are interested in sports media, sports journalism, listening, my friends are trying to get in that are listening, you can apply to that small company too. You don't have to
Yeah.
just focus on ESPN.
Yeah, that's my message. And that's, I think, one of the biggest messages I try to send is I was just like you, right? Especially in college. And when I was applying to all these different internships, I was thinking the big companies, like everybody wants the ESPNs and the Fox Sports and CBS Sports. And I got the CBS Sports and I got the Sirius XM and I got NBC and everything was really cool. But I realized that the work that you do is the work that you do no matter where you are. So whatever your responsibilities are, that's what's going to be asked of you. It's not like just because I'm at ESPN doesn't mean I'm, going to the Super Bowl. Like that actually isn't the case, because you're going to be in a position, you got to work your way up to that. So that's going to be in years. So whether you're at a small company or a big company, either way, you got to hustle. What I found that going to a smaller company is that your hustle gets rewarded more quickly, and you might have to hustle more. Actually, probably not might. Like you will have to hustle more, but that will get rewarded more quickly. So I do try to, put that kind of perspective in people's minds that, hey, look, it's not built for everybody. Some people are built for, and they're meant for a bigger company and whatever their work style is. But others who are like willing to really put in a lot of work and want to see quick growth, I think, please go look at smaller companies. There's a lot of them out there, especially in sports media, because it's $1 billion industry. It's a lot of companies trying to get in, and the game day that I work for is one of them. But there's a lot of other companies like Whistle Sports, and if we went through I could name a bunch of them that probably have under like 200 employees or less than 100, and they're willing to give you an opportunity. So definitely keep your eyes open.
Right. Don't pigeonhole yourself, because that could be another reason why too. It's like, oh, I haven't gotten a job. Like all the recent grads, oh, I haven't got a job. I haven't heard back. Maybe because you're only applying to these big companies that have thousands of applicants. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, you're probably getting lost in the shuffle. The more you apply, the more jobs you apply, the higher chance. Don't pigeonhole yourself. So I definitely took that into
Yeah.
account. Oh, once I started applying to other stuff, then I started hearing back. So
Hey,
there's
dude, that's the thing. I think, for one, is what you just mentioned. Give yourself, especially fresh out of college, you got to get that first opportunity. So if you're sitting around for a long time because you're waiting for the perfect opportunity, like, you're just losing time. And if you can always build off of what you're doing. That's another thing I say, is that a lot of times you're not going to find that ideal situation, and you shouldn't be worried about finding that ideal situation, because you're what are you when you graduate, like 21 or 22?
right.
You're A lot of people don't have the ideal situation when they're 35. So get that first situation, and then once you have that, you have an income coming in. We all know we need that. then start thinking about like, how can I build off of what I'm doing to go into a more optimal position? But you need the paycheck, bro. Like we all need it. Look, nobody
Right,
wants to
especially
live
in
at
New
home
York,
forever.
here in New
Yeah,
York.
in New York, you know, and you just need the experience. If you want that great experience, then you're gonna need more experience right now. So
Exactly. Because that was another thing. I was like, oh, is it? Because I would ask people, like, is it my resume? Is it my cover letter? Like, what is it? And a lot of people were just like, no, it's the experience, that portfolio, that website. So how do you say, like, for all the sports guys coming out of college, Hofstra, how would you say they should market themselves? Like when you're looking at resumes,
right.
what are the great resumes that stand out? Or applications, I should say, that stand out.
Sure. It's a great question. And I think this question, if we were to clip out one part of like, people need to hear this. They need to hear this because we're past the age, the era where like you just hand in a resume and you're going to get a job. That doesn't happen. And the
Right.
reason that doesn't happen is because it's so easy nowadays to create your own portfolio, create your own content, to go out and do things and show that. So by just handing in a resume and you and not showing me, right, if I'm like the hiring manager and I don't get to see like what you've actually done, all I'm reading is words on a resume, then I don't see why you're better than somebody else, because somebody else actually gave me, you know, proof of what they've done, whether that is video content or that's a portfolio with like a bunch of digital content creation they've made or whatever, right? That gives me proof. And if you just have a resume, then you don't. So I would say for me, what stands out in applicants when they're applying to certain roles, and I've interviewed a lot of people in the past like 2 years. Obviously, we've had a lot of growth at my company, but
Right.
the ones that stand out are the ones that they are exactly like they're able to show what they've done in the past. And it doesn't always have to be exactly linear with what they're applying for. So I'm the director of social. So, you know, I love to see people with prior social media experience and stuff that they've created. But also, if you're able to show me, if let's say you loved, you know, filming and taking photos, like photography of sports and stuff like that, if you're able to show me a portfolio of that, then I know you have ambition. I know you're able to go out on your own and create on your own. And, you know, I know that you have the desire to do things and to work in the industry. So that shows me a lot. So I think, you know, it always helps if you have the experience and you're able to show that in a portfolio in the exact, you know, realm that you're applying for. So in social for me, but if you're able to, if you're trying to go for like a different, right, like if you've always been a writer, so I was a writer in the past too, like I was the editor of the Hofstra Chronicle back in the day.
Oh,
But if
nice.
you're, yeah, so if you want to be a writer but you want to go into digital media now, like show me the articles that you've written, the articles that you've edited, show me what you've done online, because there's obviously digital publications there too. So show me what you've done there. And that's going to show me that, like, yeah, he can easily, or she can easily translate her skills or his skills to this position. For me, it's all about ambition, because I think you can learn everything on the job. And whoever says that you can't learn everything on the job, they're lying to you. You can definitely learn everything on the job. So if you have the ambition to go out and actually create stuff and be able to put that in a portfolio, then you look great to me. That's probably either 4 or 5 stars to me if that content is actually good, obviously.
Right.
But yeah, we're long past the days of just a resume, you know,
It's not about
standing
that
out.
anymore. Ever since the start of the pandemic back in 2020, it seems like there are so many podcasts right now. What do you think makes your podcast, Caps Off, that you host with Adam, Jack, and Mayton, work so well?
Yeah, so I get asked that a lot, and we've had a lot of quick growth, and that's a lot of the topic that a lot of the conversation that I try to talk about, you know, within Sports Media University. But I think it's a combination of things that really has allowed us to grow. Partly it's the chemistry that we've had, and that we've had since the beginning, but we've really been able to develop. Uh, Part of it, I think, is the approach, like the subject matter that we talked about, how we're able to talk about that kind of stuff in the industry, especially in the sports media industry. Everybody's trying to be an expert. We're not. We understand that, like, we know just as much as you do. So we're not going to try to act like we're smarter, but we're still going to give our analysis. And what we call ourselves is the Gen Z NFL group chat. And that's kind of what it is, because, when you're in your group chat, you and your boys are all arguing about something and nobody's right. And there's always the friend that takes, gives that crazy hot take. And then there's the friends that whatever, everybody wants to bash them and then whatever. But you guys are all friends at the end of the day. And that's kind of how we see this podcast. And the way it originated was we were all just arguing all the time about sports. Obviously, we work in sports, so we would come into the office. There was always one debate per day or something like that. And our head of content at the time was like, you guys should just film this because it's very entertaining. So we brought it to the bat, we brought it to the studio, we started filming it, and it took off. And so I think what I cover, the subject, like how we're able to approach that, the chemistry that we have. And then lastly, I would say the editing, I would say is really, really good. The editing falls back on Matan and Adam, who are both really, really good at just social edits and the way we approached it. And I hope anybody who's trying to start a podcast listens to this, because this is part of, I think, a big key in succeeding in today's world when there's so many podcasts out there. We thought, how can we stand out from the very onset, from the very jump? And we knew we were good at social cuts because for the game day, we do so many different social videos. So we thought if we can optimize the content, which is obviously long form, like it's a long form podcast, 45 minutes or whatever. If we can optimize the delivery and certain segments of it to be strong for social, then we can grow a social audience. And then that social audience is going to carry over to the long form audience. And that's what happened. That's what has happened. So a lot of the people see us on TikTok, they see us on Instagram, but the TikTok about to hit 100,000, which is pretty cool. In 8 months, which is pretty quick growth.
Oh, that's awesome. Proud of you guys.
Yeah, thanks. But that all I would say is the focus on TikTok. So, instead of just talking about, how good Patrick Mahomes played, we're going to say, all right, Mahomes played great. So let's rank the quarterbacks in the AFC. And when you rank the quarterbacks, that is so TikTok-y. It's like everybody wants to debate that. Everybody wants to debate what the rankings are. So
top 5 something. Yeah.
Top 5 something. What are the rankings? What start, bench, cut? Who you got? These guys, you can only take one of them. Who would you rather have? It's all these TikTok deliveries. But then if somebody really, engages with that and they like it, then they're going to say, where can I get the full version of this? And then that's when they go to the full podcast. So I think it was just the focus on the TikTokification of the podcast, or the editing that is great for short form, whether it's TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and you combine the editing with the subject matter that I think is unique in the way we approach it, and you create what we've created so far. So I think that's the recipe.
It's so cool to see, because Caps Off makes me want to do more podcasts in person. I've done 2 so far in person. Cool. I just gotta, get my bread up and try to pay these editors on time and stuff. But I definitely want to do more episodes in person, and it makes me want to edit on TikTok. I've only focused really on YouTube and Instagram. But TikTok, the algorithm is way better. I don't know what it is, but more people see your stuff on TikTok.
Yeah.
And it just it goes farther. So I gotta Caps Off makes me want to reevaluate my whole editing process. Maybe it's maybe I should hire somebody, maybe just do it myself. But it's really cool to see what you guys have done in for a period of time again, because you guys started that in 2021.
We started it in 2022. We started it in September, late August of last year. So right before football season. So yeah, it's grown quickly. And I do think TikTok, thinking about TikTok and optimizing for TikTok is huge, because like you said, there's a lot of reach. If you have good content, people are going to see it. And the good thing about it is that it's also fitting, the same type of style is also fitting for Instagram and YouTube Shorts. So it's not like you're making extra content per se. You're just really thinking TikTok first and then dispersing from there. And we've seen a lot of success with that exact strategy.
Right. The same video could do well on TikTok, probably will hopefully do well on Reels and YouTube Shorts. Right. That's true.
Yeah. And it's not always the case, right? Sometimes something will do very well on TikTok and it'll flop on Instagram, it'll flop on YouTube, or
That's true.
sometimes if it flops on TikTok and it pops off on YouTube and it's okay on Instagram, we're like, but at the end of the day, one of the biggest things with content creation and podcasting and the social promotion of what you're doing, you can't get caught up in the numbers of every little thing you're doing. I think you have to look at the macro. So look at, how am I doing for the month? Because there's so many different reasons that something could do well, something could flop. Just because something flops doesn't mean it wasn't good content. Even though I think you have to be honest with yourself sometimes, like maybe I could have done this better, but it doesn't always mean that, you know, it's not good content or that it's great, absolutely amazing content because it did pop off and that you can't still improve that. Social media, it fluctuates and it goes up and down. And so you can't be too harsh a critic because of 5 clips that didn't do well, you know?
Yeah, it makes me, everything you said, it makes me like, okay, now when I'm talking to somebody on a podcast, how am I going to clip this? Like, let me talk to them in a way that's not fake, but how can I like talk to them in a way that makes sense for social media?
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, it was definitely an adjustment because like you said, it's not fake, but you are focused on the delivery, which almost makes it feel fake, but it's not. So it's like, if we're in the middle of a sentence and we already started the conversation talking about Patrick Mahomes, I could say, you know, he's the best quarterback in the league. But because I'm being conscious of that social clip, I'm always going to say Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback. Like, I'm always going to say the name because then I know that we can clip it easily. So it's thinking about those things. And it was an adjustment over the first couple months, I probably would say, until eventually it becomes natural where you can have that conversation, but still, you know, the camera's there and I'm going to give that delivery because I know we're going to clip it out later. So it's something to balance, but it's something that it becomes more natural over time.
Earlier this year, you and the boys had the opportunity to go to Super Bowl 57 and see the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Philadelphia Eagles at State Farm Stadium in Glendale, Arizona. What was that experience like?
Our podcast, as a whole, we went to Radio Row, which was the week before. So all of the Super Bowl media week, that was really cool. But we didn't stay for the game itself. But one of our guys, Jack, stayed for the game itself because, you know, we work for the game day and obviously we do a lot of other type of digital content as well. And Jack was able to, since he was doing a whole nother show, which was within the game, he went to the game. But me, Adam, and Matan, we were there. We got an Airbnb for the week, and the Super Bowl is so big. Obviously, the NFL just wants to make so much money off of it that the festivities start the week before. So it's a lot of the players that aren't in the Super Bowl obviously are there all week. They're just talking to the media. You have all the rest of the media there, and then you have access to both teams who are playing in the Super Bowl. And you're able to talk to those guys. So I got to talk to some of the big names, you know, in both teams, Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and some really big names. So that was really cool. And I think the biggest thing for me that was awesome was the fact that I was right next to a lot of the media members that I had been like idolizing as a kid. So, and we were doing the same thing that they were doing. So like, they're there to cover the draft. We're there to cover the draft, or not the draft. They're there to cover the Super Bowl. We're there to cover the Super Bowl. And so that was really, really cool. So the experience was phenomenal. It was awesome. It was, I think to this day, the best thing I've done in my professional career was just being there and being able to record a podcast live where everybody else is recording as well. So like, we're recording our podcast and then you look to your left and Fox Sports is there recording theirs, and you see like Shannon and Skip, and you see all these other people, and you're not there as a fan, but you're there as you know, a peer, like somebody else in the space that's also working alongside them. So that was really awesome.
No, that's major. Like, you're doing, and again, it goes back to like, you guys are there with these other big companies. So it's like, that says a lot about you, your content, the team. Like, you just got to believe in yourself, and you're getting paid to do something that you love. Not many people can do that. So that's awesome.
Yeah. It was surreal. It was kind of a full circle moment from where we had started the podcast and we said, hey, like, we can do something good, we think, with this. And to be able to, you know, by the end of the season, go to the Super Bowl, which is the biggest event in American sports, that was pretty cool. So yeah. I mean, I can't speak enough about it, but it was really cool.
There are a lot of incredible hosts and journalists such as Stephen A. Smith, Taylor Rooks, Shannon Sharp, and the list goes on. Are there any people in sports media that you look up to and or admire?
You said I think first name. I grew up, my guy was Stephen A, man. Stephen A was my literal hero. I swear. I did everything, like my career. I followed it. I wanted to be in sports media
Wow.
because of Stephen A. Smith.
Wow.
So it's funny because he's like a big name. A lot of people hate him. A lot of people love him.
Yeah.
Uh, but that's what I like. I like how he's so true to who he is, and it's kind of what we were talking about earlier, where you could dive into another realm because it just gets more. It's more popular right now, but that's not who you are. It's the same thing with Stephen A. He's very true to who he is. He's he doesn't waver on his takes. He's very strong, and I think he's very educated as well. And I love how articulate he is. And I always did when I was growing up, was just hearing the words he says, and it gets a lot of memes and stuff like that. But I just really admire and respect how well educated he is, and how that's able to transcend, through the camera. So I think it's awesome. It's a combination of that, obviously, and just how entertaining he is. He's hilarious, and he's just loud as hell. I'm not that loud. I'll never be that loud,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
yeah, I'd say Stephen A. But I haven't been consuming, as much Stephen A. content as since I've gotten into the industry myself, I would say. But the other people I like that are kind of doing it now, I love Taylor Rooks. You mentioned Taylor Rooks. I absolutely love Taylor Rooks. And she's doing more in like the digital space too.
Right.
So like you see her a lot on like social and like like just the digital realm, which you see less of Stephen A. So I think that's awesome because I'm in the digital world now. So
Right.
I love Taylor Rooks. I love man, I love a lot of people in the space. There's people I don't love, obviously. I think Skip.
Okay.
I think Skip is terrible. Some people are just calling coward. I think he's just arrogant, and you can hear it when he
Okay.
talks. But
I probably know the
yeah,
fate.
I would say Stephen A.
Okay. Yeah, the whole Skip and Shannon thing, that was crazy. I'm wondering who, like, some people were saying that Joy Taylor would be a good like Skip and Joy Taylor on Undisputed. That could be
Yeah,
interesting. Because
it
she
could.
did, like, good takes.
Yeah, it could. I mean, my personal opinion, I don't love Joy Taylor either. But
Oh, okay.
look, I never liked I never liked that show in the first place. I don't like Skip. I don't like
Oh, okay,
Shannon.
okay.
I don't like Joe. I don't like anybody on Fox for that. I just think like,
Okay.
and like, this is anything personal with them. It's just the style of content that I like. I love Stephen A. I actually love Max Kellerman. And I love other people. I love Molly Karam, who's on ESPN. I was like, so I like different people, but like those, not me.
Is it because they're do you feel like it's more argumentative over there? Like on that
Yeah, I feel like they don't have as much substance in their arguments. Like it's always like Skip hates LeBron, and it's like, bro, at least acknowledge when he does something good. Like you don't always have to hate on him.
Yeah.
So that's the thing about like Stephen A. Like I say, he doesn't waver from his takes, but he will acknowledge something that is factual. And the guys over there won't. Like Skip won't. I felt like Shannon never really did.
Okay.
Now I think they're good for entertainment, right? Like if you just want to get entertained. But as somebody who I actually enjoy learning some stuff when I watch, I don't want to completely just have entertainment, then I just don't think Fox does the best job. Even though who I do love at Fox is Chris Broussard. I like Chris Broussard a
Okay.
lot.
Switching gears from sports, your solo podcast, Thrive by 29, is aimed to empower adults in their 20s to reach their personal and professional potential by documenting your own journey and obstacles. Was it
Yeah.
important for you to have a platform that wasn't centered around sports?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I spend so much time talking about sports, literally 24/7. And it's not even just like 9 to 5. It's because these are digital platforms and social media and all that, it's 24/7. So, and to be able to grow something like we did with Caps Off, you have to be engaging with the community all the time. And I'm not saying I don't give myself downtime. I do, but it gets tiring when that's all you're talking about. And at the end of the day, look, I love sports, but it's superficial. Like it's these athletes that we're talking about, they're human beings doing their job. And a lot of people get so consumed within that they think it's bigger than that. And and it can get ugly where they're talking about an athlete and they're talking about, their terrible things about this person as if they're not a human being and they're just there to do their job and like which is play football or play basketball or play soccer or whatever it is. So I think some parts of it can get kind of tiring at times, and feeding into that, and naturally people are going to say, oh, you think this guy sucks, and it's like, I don't think this guy sucks. At the end of the day, like, we're just here to have fun, right?
Right.
But it can get tiring. So I thought it was important for me to have an outlet where I can just talk about other things, just talk about a lot of things that I'm passionate about, because sports isn't the only thing I care about. It's one of the many things that I care about. I love music. I love self-improvement. I love like just health. So all those things for me, it's important for me to talk about, especially being in the media space. And I also, definitely want those who follow me and those who see me to understand that, sports for me is just one side. It's just one thing. And also I don't carry it too deeply within my own energy and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say it was very important for me.
That's awesome. No, yeah, I'm sure it was refreshing to see, and it's hopefully refreshing for your audience too. Like, oh, like well-rounded individual, not just the sports dude.
Yeah.
I think that's cool.
Yeah.
And the topics that you
Yeah.
cover are very interesting. Like, and you spoke about like pop culture. Like, our generation is very, very influenced by pop culture, and sometimes we need to like branch off of that and like focus on yourself. Like, you don't need to focus on LeBron James or Rihanna. Like, if you need to focus on yourself, it's you versus you. So I think that was really interesting. Are you gonna have any? It's also cool that it's just you. Are you gonna have any guests, or do you like the conversational solo vibe?
Yeah, so I'm still trying to find my voice. And so that kind of answers that sort of. It's like I might not. I definitely do in the future. And I'm still seeing where this podcast goes. So I am super, super busy with just like with the work, and then also the sports media education that I'm just trying to give out in general with the sports media stuff. Also, I'm building a platform where, there's I'm working on like courses and coaching and stuff like that too. So there's a lot that comes with that. So I'm trying to balance everything out and see, and maybe find out if there's a way that I can more naturally incorporate Thrive by 29 into the education process that I'm going through with like the sports media university. So, because sports media, I also see it as different from the sports stuff that I talk about, because I'm not debating sports. I'm talking about how to succeed professionally. So maybe there's a way I can tie those in. And I think I'm still trying to find my voice, but I definitely am interested in bringing other people on who can talk about the success that they've had, and talk about how, they were able to get there. So I think our generation needs to, there's so many people that are successful and that are young and are successful. And we see these people on social media, like just a lot of people just like throwing out money and doing all this kind of stuff. But you never like hear from a lot of the people who are also successful and aren't doing those things. So what did they do to get to where they are? So I definitely want to bring some of those as well. And I have plans to in the near future.
That's awesome. And I think it's cool too, kind of like me, you don't shy away from any topic, whether it's the episodes that we do on the podcast or the episodes you've done by yourself. And you give a lot of hot takes and like, oh, like I agree with that. Like, oh, I didn't expect someone to say that out loud. What have you always been so confident? And what is the key to being yourself so fully online?
That's a great question. The first question, have always been confident. Yeah, I've never struggled with confidence. I think that's part of me being an immigrant, to be honest.
Okay.
I came from Brazil. I grew up.
You
I
were
always
born
felt
there?
different. Yeah, I was born in Brazil.
Oh.
I came when I was 1, so I moved to Texas when I was 1. But I grew up. My family, like my mom, barely spoke English. But my family, like in the house, it was a Brazilian household my whole life. So I was very entrenched. And so I felt like I almost lived 2 lives, where like I was partly, I'd go to school and I'm living this American lifestyle. And also I look like fully white, like I could be American. I got blue eyes.
Right.
But meanwhile, I'm in this Brazilian household, Latino, speaking Portuguese, and like living that Brazilian lifestyle. So because I always felt so different, like I never had anything to truly attach to. And therefore I just embraced kind of like who I was myself. And that was my love for sports. That was my love for music. Those are the two things that like I truly love. I would say for in terms of just probably outlets, sports and music. And then I started to develop uh and to break down the sports part, like it wasn't always just even watching sports. It was like I loved like playing it. So then it developed into like a passion for following it because I loved playing it. But truly, that also went into health, like a passion that I have for the health and
Fitness.
being able to fitness and strength there. So and healthy eating and all that stuff. So I've always been confident in myself because I didn't have, I never felt like I could just attach myself to anything in particular. So I'm like, let me just embrace who I am and embrace these things that I truly enjoy.
So you're active on social media, whether it is professional or personal. How do you spend time off social media to try and have that work-life balance?
That's tough. Yeah, man. That is tough. Part of the reason I started Thrive by 29 was because I wanted to document literally that's part of it is like I got to unplug. And I'm so locked into social because of my job, because of the podcast. I have to be. And you understand it with how much you promote your podcast and what you have to do, everything that entails with that. And I'm a hard worker. So it can get a little toxic at times because you talk about you pair a strong work ethic with you work in social media. Well, shit, you're going to be on that thing all day. And I have to unplug. And so that's part of the reason I started Thrive by 29 and doing things. I actually read this book and I would encourage everybody to read it called The 5 a.m. Club. And it doesn't, I'm not telling everybody to wake up at 5 a.m. because that's essentially what the book is. But a lot of the things you learn about, not being afraid to be yourself, not being afraid to stand on your own principles and to dream big and do all these kind of things. It's incorporated in this book. And so I read that book and part of it was like, you got to unplug from all this like superficial digital media space, social media space that we live in today. And so I started waking up at 5 a.m. And then part of my routine was cutting out any type of social that I didn't need. What I found that, I found that, you say like, I'm going on social media to post something or to engage with something, and that's it. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of us, and I would say most of us, we go on social media to kill time and to kind of like get rid of like anxiety or whatever it may be, and we just like pass time on social media. And that time could be spent so much better living in the now, appreciating what's going on around you, looking at the people that are across from you, talking to them, even just appreciating silence, hearing the sounds that are going on, like all this type of stuff. And so I actively took some actions to try to limit my social media use. And so I had a social media folder and on my phone, and it was on the first like slide on the iPhone, when you slide through.
Okay.
And so naturally, so then I moved it all the way like 3 slides down. So for me to get there, I had to slide all the way down and then click on it. And what I realized once I did that was that, and for context, what took the place of that folder was like some random app. I don't even know why I have it, like some weird ass app that I never use. And I would find myself opening that app all the time because it was my natural habit to just unlock my phone and click there without even thinking about it. You know what I mean? Because if I was thinking about it, then I would naturally swipe over and go to Instagram or go to TikTok. But I would find that it was my natural habit to just click there when I wasn't doing anything. So let's say I'm cooking something and I'm waiting on something on the microwave, I'll go on that. Or it could be something as quick as like I'm talking to my boss. Somebody comes over at work and she, takes a little 15-second conversation. In those 15 seconds, I click on Instagram. For some reason, I'm not even going to look at it. Yeah. So just by me moving that over, I realized how subconsciously like tied to just the action of going on social media I was. So I moved everything over. That helped me a lot. My screen time went down so much from that. I realized that I can police myself pretty much with social media, and I try to do it as much as possible. So on weekends, I try to get away from it as much as possible. And it's a balance because, I am doing a lot of content, so I'm posting, but when I post to promote stuff, or just to create, then I get off. And it's a struggle. It's a
It's
balance, but it's a
difficult.
challenge that is important.
It's difficult because a lot of times too, you're scrolling for fun, but then also you're on social media for inspiration. Like I'm
Yeah,
like, oh,
that's
like
right. That's yeah.
let me look at Caps Off. Let me look at sports media. How did they edit? What time do they post? How does this podcast post? Like I'm looking for inspiration. So it's hard. It's kind of like, oh, like I kind of need it. And also too, how I reach out to people. It's not always email, it's social media. Hey, you want to come on the
A lot of
podcast?
times, yeah.
So it's tough, but you
It's a
definitely have
balance.
work-life balance. You work out, I think that's dope. You read, reading is important too. Like
Yeah,
hey, maybe when I'm on the subway, instead of scrolling on social media, let me pick up a book. So there's different ways you can
exactly.
for sure.
Exactly. One way I think it helps is, and because I totally agree with you, and I'm glad you mentioned that you get inspiration from social. So sometimes you're scrolling for inspiration. I think separating blocks to where you're on social for work, and then blocks where you can choose to be on social, but that would be for fun and not for work. So being able to kind of like separate and make a distinction between social for work and social for fun, I think is very important, and it kind of helps out with that balance.
Right, right. And now for some rapid fire questions, sports edition. Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi,
Maradona or Pele?
Pele, come on, man.
Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes?
Mahomes.
Tom Brady or Peyton Manning?
Uh, I like Peyton more. I like Peyton more, but Brady's greater. But I like Peyton
Okay.
more. I'm gonna keep it at that.
Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
Jordan,
Best athlete of all time, regardless of
Michael
sport.
Jordan,
Michael Jordan.
Jordan.
Who would be your dream guest on Caps Off?
Oh, Patrick Mahomes
Patrick
for
Mahomes.
sure,
That
for
would be a
sure,
good one. Who would be
bro.
your
We need him. We need him.
facts? Let's speak that into existence. And who would be your dream guest on Thrive by 29?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Oh, bro, that's a great
That's a
question.
tough one. That's a tough.
My favorite, the most influential person for me, like ever, regardless of anything, is Barack Obama. So I think that would be incredible to have him on.
Wow. I thought you were gonna say
Uh
The Rock, honestly. Okay.
okay, yeah.
No, that's a good one. That's great. That's my dream
Yeah,
guest.
yeah,
For sure.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And so I would say that. And then I love I'm a huge fan of Jay-Z. I would love to have Jay-Z on. Obviously spit game, not just music, but business. He's
Business.
obviously
Yeah.
genius at that,
That's a
and
great
how he's
one.
been able to balance everything. So that's a good question, man. I'm gonna have to think about that one.
And now for some TCP rapid fire questions. What makes you laugh the most?
Oh, damn, see, these are good questions.
Thank you.
Right now, I think kids. I love kids, and I think they're just so energetic and joyful that they just make me laugh. So I'm gonna say that I love working with kids too. Like I coach pee wee football and all that kind of stuff. So I'm
Oh,
gonna say that.
nice. Okay. Three things you're grateful for.
Three things I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for my relationship with my family. I'll say number one, really good relationship there.
That's a good one.
Um, I'm I'm grateful for my mom always tells me about this one. She says, "Have you thanked every time I talk to her? She's like, have you thanked God for the energy, the enthusiasm that you have? Because not everybody has that kind of enthusiasm and are able to live life that way. So I would say I'm very grateful for that.
That's
Uh,
great.
and
That's
that
great.
allows me to just approach the day to day like at a great level and be able to have
Prayer
the
every
enjoyment.
morning.
Yeah, exactly. You got to express gratitude because I mean it's important. You're not gonna get more if you don't express that. So I'll say that's number two. Number three, uh, grateful for a lot of things I'm grateful for, but I'll say number three is all the opportunities that I've gotten professionally to get to this point. So, I'm very happy with everything I've done. And I think that a lot of what I've done is because of my hard work, but I'd be lying if I said, luck didn't come. I think luck comes for everybody. It's just about whether you take advantage of it or not. So I'm very thankful for the opportunities I've gotten.
Love that. Love that. What would you tell your younger self?
Oh, that's a good one. I would tell my younger self to not stress about the future. I always did, and I think that's part of the reason I was able to. I'm where I'm at now, that I've been able to accomplish a lot of what I have, because I'm always thinking like, how can I do more and what can I do, and like thinking worst case scenario in the future. I don't want that, so how can I build here and do this? But I would say that everything works out, and I'll tell a lot of people that, especially people who are super ambitious when they're young, is that don't overly stress, because you can still have a work ethic, you can still have a positive mindset, and you can still have goals and not necessarily stress about those goals. So I would say, be confident that everything is going to pan out the way you hope it will.
Right. No, I would say the same thing. I would say the same thing. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Great question.
That
It's one
job interview question.
I think about that. I think about that often, actually. So in 5 years, I want to be inspiring a lot of people, and I want to have a platform to where I can help a lot of people. So that's kind of what I started with Sports Media University. It was kind of thinking about the future and how can I create a platform to where I can help people skip unnecessary steps to get to where they are. And as I've talked about, a lot of it is action based. So how can we, create the how can we kind of enlighten people on that and do that? So I want to be in a position with that to where I've influenced a lot of people. I've impacted a lot of people, and I want to continue creating content. I want my voice to be heard by more, and I want to be more impactful outside of sports. I think that's a huge goal for me, is be
Right.
more impactful outside of sports in 5 years. Where like now I feel like my voice is definitely, like, I'll be in New York City and somebody be like, "Hey, you're the TikTok guy." I'm like, "Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah." But
That's
that's
dope.
football, right? I don't
Yeah.
want to be like, I want it to be like, "Oh, like you're the guy that inspires and tells you to live to your full potential and talks about how important it is to, have a morning routine, whatever it may be." I
Yeah.
want that to prevail more. So I think in 5 years I want to be more impactful in like a lifestyle type of way.
I can see that. I can see that for sure. Whether it's caps off in sports media or Thrive by 29, I could see that for sure. Totally.
Cool, man. I
And
appreciate that.
of course. And what would you name this current chapter of your life? This one gets everybody.
These are this is the best part of the podcast, man. You're doing great. Uh, what I name is current chapter, dude. That's good. Discovery.
Discovery. Yeah. I think it's gonna be a
I
lot of
would,
discovery. Yeah.
yeah, I would call it discovery, and the reason I would call it discovery is because that's what I'm trying to figure out. I feel like I've gotten uh, I've gotten the professional success that a lot of people who say like, "Oh, that's all I would want. That's all I would need." I've gotten a lot of professional success. I feel like I'm at where I'm at now, uh, and I get to these places and I'm like, and I've gotten here, and I'm in a new apartment and I love this apartment. Like I moved in, I'm living like everything is great,
Everything
but I
looks
realized
good.
that like, yeah, everything looks good, but like I'm not completely fulfilled, and so that's why I'm like, how can I find that fulfillment? And or maybe let me rename the chapter. It's discovering fulfillment. I would say that. And because even though I've gotten all these things and like on surface level, somebody would look at me and be like, "Oh, he's doing great." I'm not as fulfilled, I would say, as I want to be, and I think that's part of. But I'm starting to find it as I create a platform that can impact other people. I'm helping other people, and I think that's what it's going to be. So this chapter is discovering fulfillment.
That's so honest. I love that. That's so honest. Yeah, because people would say, like, oh, he's fit, he's killing at his job,
Yeah.
got the girlfriend, living in New York, like everything. But then it's like, oh, there's it's not that's not everything. Those are great, but that's not
Yeah.
everything. I'm still trying to
It's
find my purpose. So that I'm sure I hope people, if they don't take anything else away, I hope they listen to that, and they, just because something looks good on Instagram doesn't mean that like there may not be, or I don't want to say it's bad in person. I don't want to say that, but like there's more
sure.
to the story. Yeah.
Yeah, everybody says, I've heard this before, is like Instagram is a highlight reel or social media is a highlight reel. So you're only getting the best out of the best of the best of like whatever that person has going on, like what's actually going on.
Right.
And yeah, like again, nothing. I know that a lot of good things are going on, but there's a lot of fulfillment that needs to be found, and that's the goal.
That's awesome. And finally, are there any other upcoming projects that you're working on that you wanted to share or promote?
Man, I think we talked about it all.
Okay.
Sports Media University, I would say, is like my main focus right now. And like I said, trying to impact more people. I actually just had a call a couple of days ago with somebody that we're looking to work with like long term with their podcast. So, trying to impact more people, trying to really grow the presence of Sports Media University and just the education process of that. And that I would say is my biggest project, and trying to find out how I can balance that with Thrive by 29. As I said, I might try to see how I can infuse them like together and see what that is, but finding my voice with those things, that's number one focus for me right now.
That's awesome. And where can everyone follow you?
They can follow me at the Felipe Fontes, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. On TikTok, I've just kind of narrowed down to Sports Media University, so you can follow that. That's all I'm talking about there. If you're interested in that, or if you have friends that are interested in that, then pass that to them. But yeah, that's
Awesome.
that's it.
Thank you so much, bro, for coming on the podcast for the third time. I really appreciate it. For those who don't know, Felipe has been a day one supporter of the podcast, so it just means a lot to make friends doing this podcast. I didn't think I would. And have people that like don't know you initially, but really like support you, stand behind you, give advice, talk for an hour and a half. I appreciate it on a Saturday. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, and continue doing your thing. This is awesome. We talked a bit before this pod, but everything you're doing is awesome. I've been following from the jump, like you said, and it keeps getting better. So keep it up, man.
Thank you. Thank you. And I want to hear from you guys. So if you're listening to this episode right now on a podcast platform, be sure to leave a rating on Anchor, Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're watching this episode on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you click the notification bell up top so you're notified whenever I upload a new episode. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.